Hey, how's it going, plant-based runner? Coach Kyle here, and today you're going to learn about some recent scientific publications that I think you'll find interesting and helpful as it relates to plant-based, vegan, vegetarian eating and athletics. These topics include comparing milk versus corn protein and muscle protein synthesis, a little bit of information about a debate about the health effects of removing animal products from a diet, veganism or vegetarianism actually, and depression, vegetarianism and bone health, and how plant-based protein shakes may or may not affect hunger in the afternoon. If you don't know, I'm Coach Kyle and I work primarily with plant-based runners all over the world to improve their running and their lives through implementing sustainable training habits, easy to do strength work, dialing in their nutrition, and working on anything else that might need alignment by making it all come together with great accountability and motivation without being asked where you get your protein from. So we have a lot to cover, so let's get into it. First up is a study that looked at corn versus milk protein and how those affect muscle protein synthesis. And if you don't know, maybe you've heard that plant-based proteins tend to be incomplete proteins. And that doesn't mean they're actually always incomplete, but some of the amino acids in them might be of lower quantities than in something like a whey protein, for example. Often it's leucine that is lacking, except interestingly enough, and I didn't actually know this, that corn protein is actually pretty high in leucine. So this study looked at muscle protein synthesis and like blood essential amino acid levels in these participants after consuming a corn or a milk or whey protein shake. And what they found was that, of course, after taking in the milk protein shake, those participants had slightly higher blood levels of amino acids, but the rate of muscle protein synthesis after the consumption of these two shakes didn't differ. So in this case, the researchers suggested that corn protein is an adequate protein source compared to milk protein. Now, one thing is that you can't, as far as my Google search shows me, you can't like buy corn protein powder like you can pea protein powder. But use this as kind of a little kick in the butt needed to try to maybe make your own corn tortillas, for example. I am not a fan of store-bought corn tortillas. They're just not good. But and this is like one of my greatest regrets when it comes to my diet is that it took so long for me to get a tortilla press. And I promise you, homemade corn tortillas are far easier, far tastier, and they're really inexpensive than you would ever imagine. So check out the link in the pinned comment here for my recipe for homemade corn tortillas. I promise you, you won't be disappointed. Now I want to talk about a publication that came out, and it was a debate where, point, counterpoint written out between two experts. And it was about the health benefits or not of simply taking animal products out of a diet. And this struck home to me because I initially went vegetarian, not due to health reasons, but due to ethical reasons, because I grew up on a dairy farm. And typically, I have a degree in nutrition, but I rarely recommend going plant-based primarily for health reasons, because you can still eat vegan junk food. But this debate, and I highly encourage you to look at it. I'm not going to talk much about it because it was very robust, but very informative. And it was simply point and counterpoint between these two experts on various topics and considerations about removing or keeping in, and about the validity of going vegetarian or vegan or not. And it talked about health, ethics, etc. So I'll link it again in the first pinned comment on this video, but I highly recommend you check it out. And I'd be really interested in hearing from you why you initially chose to cut out animal products from your diet, or why you're thinking about it. Leave me a comment below, but I want to know from you, was it due to ethics, the environment, or health? Let me know. I'm curious to find out. Next up, there was a study, and these are all linked in the pinned comment. There was a study looking at vegetarian diet, eating patterns, and depression, anxiety, and stress. And this was a literature review. There has been some studies that found that there maybe is a link between vegetarian eating and depression. So this was not just a single study, but it was a literature review looking at all the studies up until July 2020, I believe it was, and what the consensus was around this eating pattern and depression, anxiety, and stress. There were 10 studies that met the qualification standards for vegetarian eating and depression, and they did not find any association in general between the two. The pool effect for 4 studies looking at anxiety and a vegetarian diet also found no association. However, unfortunately, there wasn't enough data to look at stress and a vegan or vegetarian diet. So the researchers concluded that taking all this into consideration, in general, there isn't a good association between a vegetarian diet and depression and anxiety, but with stress, more research is of course always needed. Next up, we have a study that looked at about 9,000 participants from the National Health and Nutritional Examination Survey, which was a large US-based study. And they looked at vegetarian eaters and non-vegetarian eaters and bone mineral density. So this was actually a really interesting study, and the researchers did find that in general, vegetarians did have lower bone mineral density in the lumbar spine, the femoral neck, and the total femoral bone mineral density. It was lower in vegetarians. But get this, after doing some adjustments for like age, sex, body mass, waist circumference, etc., the researchers determined that there was no statistically significant difference. And the reason that pre-adjustments, the vegetarians had lower bone mineral density was because the vegetarians had lower body mass index and waist circumference. So the vegetarians simply weighed less. And that makes sense that people that maybe are of a better body composition, they have less body fat, have a lower bone mineral density because they weigh less. And another study, another interesting study. It's pretty well known that something like whey protein is, if you take a whey protein shake in the morning, for example, it tends to decrease hunger and calorie intake at lunch, for example. And so the researchers here wanted to look at if a plant-based protein shake has the same hunger-reducing effect over lunch 3 hours later. So in this study, they had participants consume 50 grams, which is a lot, of whey protein or soy protein or carbohydrates as a control group in the morning, and then 3 hours later, they had a lunch. And the researchers did find that compared to the carbohydrate shake group, which I don't know if that was just like maltodextrin, the protein, plant-based and animal-based protein shakes, those people did eat less over lunch than the people that had carbohydrates. So if you're looking to lose weight, to improve your body composition, cutting calories is one of the best ways to do so. And this could be a pretty easy kind of hack you could implement, and it would simply be hey, it's Kyle, and it's the next day. I was editing this video and I realized it got cut off with the last minute or so got cut off. And what I was gonna say was that this hack of taking in protein early on in the day and kind of reducing your hunger for lunch, for the midday meal, etc., could be a good way to cut calories for your day to improve your body composition. And also something else that goes along with that is when I have clients that come to me and they want to improve their body composition, not only do we work on improving their diet, but we increase their muscle mass. We start doing heavier lifting for weight loss, because if you increase your muscle mass, you're going to increase your basal metabolic rate. You're just going to increase how many calories you burn at rest. And a good way to do that is not only with good, like heavier strength work, but increasing your protein intake. So it's kind of a double bang for your buck, because with taking in 30 or 50, that's quite a bit, grams of protein in the morning, you're helping yourself along with improving your basal metabolic rate, with improving your muscle mass, but you're also potentially decreasing your calorie intake by decreasing your hunger for that midday meal. So it's a great tactic, a great tool to utilize. And that's all the research, that's all the articles that I found for this week. If you found any of these that were exceptionally helpful, that you have a friend that might be interested in one of these, please share this video with them and pass on that information. And as always, check out the links up here for some information about further studies. Next week, I have another study I want to talk about that's again related to kind of a hack, a tool, a tactic you can use to eat fewer calories during the day. And I think if that's your goal, stick around, hit subscribe to be notified of that video coming out next Sunday. So as always, you keep running, I'll keep coaching.